Hi and welcome to this lesson on Hide and Seek by Vernon Scannell. So this poem is quite an interesting one because it sort of seems quite childish and silly, but underneath it has quite a serious message. It's always really good to get a sense of doubleness or double interpretations into your essays when you write poetry. So it's good that this one has quite an obvious double interpretation that you can do. It makes it easier for you to analyze it there. So the first thing to do with all poems is just read them aloud to yourself, just to get a sense of the rhythm and the imagery and that kind of thing. So I want you to just pause me now and read the poem aloud. And when you're ready, we'll jump into the analysis. So we'll have a look at the story first. The speaker is talking to the child and he says, "Call out, you're ready to be found in the game. You're hiding under the tool shed under some snacks that smell of sea and salt." The speaker warns the child to keep his feet hidden and not to call out again because it might give away his hiding spot. So the first time they call out, it's like, "I'm ready, you can come find me." And the second time, they might already be looking for you, so you don't want to call out again. You want to just stay hidden. So they have this idea of the child waiting and all this kind of dramatic tension, waiting to be found and hiding in this quite scary, dark place that you can't really see much, but you can smell kind of unusual smells there. The floor is really cold. It starts to get uncomfortable. The people are probably looking elsewhere. The speaker says, "Don't sneeze." So, don't give yourself away. You've done so well so far. Keep hiding. And they hear, or the child hears whispering at the door of the shed, and there's this tense moment where you think the people might find them, the other children that are looking for this boy. So the boy waits longer and thinking, "Oh, I've won this game. They're going to be so confused when they find out where I was, because they already tried to look in the shed and they couldn't see me." And eventually he comes out and he shouts, "I've won," but there's actually nobody there anymore. And we're not quite sure why, but there's two possible interpretations. So either they've gone and hid themselves, or they just got bored and stopped playing this game. So the child's been trying really hard to play this game from the beginning and, putting up with the pain and the cold and trying not to sneeze or making noise, all that kind of stuff. And it seems like the other people that were playing this game with him have got either played a trick on him and gone and hid somewhere themselves to freak him out, or completely ignored him or forgotten, got bored and stopped looking. So either way, he's played fairly, they've played unfairly, but he's lost and they've kind of won. They've done what they want and he's been in a lot of discomfort without actually ever having been found. So that's the story of the poem. We're going to have a look more at the speaker. So the speaker is a voice that's talking to the child, who is the subject of the poem. So it's good to identify the speaker and the subject, and if there is one, an addressee. So in this case, the subject and addressee are the same. The speaker is talking to the child, and the child is also the subject. So the speaker has a playful and excited tone, which seems childish, and uses this childish register, this language that children would use to create this excitable feeling of playing hide and seek, and to kind of plunge readers back into that moment when we were playing that as kids ourselves. So there's a lot of tentative language, and just kind of here I'll highlight in case you got a bit lost. Tentative language, be careful, that type of thing, which kind of sounds like an adult and the way that adults speak to children, and they sort of project their fear or their anxiety on children as well. They're like, "Oh, watch out, be careful," that kind of thing. And that kind of feeling when an adult says that to a child transfers to the child. So it's creating this sense of panic in him. We could also see the speaker as not an adult or a mature voice, but in fact, the child's own inner mind, inner kind of conscience, if you like, the inner voice that guides us. We all have a conscience, which is like sort of when your head's talking to yourself and going over things that you did and trying to figure out if that was the right thing to do or that kind of thing. That's your conscience. So it could be the inner voice of his own conscience, his own logical brain trying to help him through this situation. So it's guiding his instincts. His instinct might be to sneeze or to move because he's cold or he needs to sneeze. But this conscience is like, no, we're playing a game. You need to stay put. Don't do that. So it's those kind of like inner psychological tensions that it's capturing. So yeah, like I say, there's more language points, but I'll move on to form and structure. This one's very important. It begins in medias res. This is a Latin phrase and it means in the middle of things. So we're just plunged into the middle of this story and we have to figure out what's going on, where are we? It's quite disorienting, it's quite tense and exciting. Creates this sense of kind of panic or like, you know, like the thrill or rush of excitement of playing a game, especially hide and seek. So it's really appropriate to just kind of plonk us into the middle of the action using that in medias res technique. There are a lot of short sentences, especially coupled with these imperative commands. Don't breathe, don't move, stay dumb, hide in your blindness. They create a sense of breathlessness. They also increase tension. So it starts tense and it becomes tenser. They also have this sense of like very clear commands to the child, almost like a heartbeat or like some kind of regular reinforcement, I think, there. We have a volta. A volta is a turning point, and this is really important because normally a volta comes partway through the poem, but actually in this one it comes right at the end. So the ending is really ambiguous. We don't actually know whether they got bored and left or whether they're playing a game because they were laughing when they found him, you know, whether they've gone and hid themselves to trick him. But the final line kind of twists because up until that moment, he's been really enjoying himself. And even if it was difficult, he's been enjoying the game. And suddenly he's had this moment of realization. You can call this an epiphany as well. Epiphany, I think. But yeah, epiphanies, these moments of realization where suddenly you realize that the world's not how you thought it was. That's a really important part of growing up. And it's an important moment in the poem here, signified by a volta. Finally, the rhyme scheme. We have this kind of full rhyme of certain lines, even though there's no formal rhyme scheme. So sticking out, shout, door, before, coat, throat. These are full rhyming sounds. They make it sound a bit like a lullaby. They enhance the childishness of it. But also, because they don't happen regularly, there's this sense of a tension between the comforting order of the rules of the game and then this kind of chaos of the reality where the other kids just make up their own rules and people do what they want. So it's kind of disjointed, like it should be structured and it's not. And I think that that's why, because he's got this tension between rules and lack of rules. So as a final thing, I'm just going to leave you with some themes to think about. You can find quotes for these themes, you can write essays on them or paragraphs. Just play around with them and think about how do they connect to and open up your understanding of the poem. And what is Scannell's final message on each of them? So what is his final message about maturity or about childhood and so on? If you do that, you'll be really well prepared for any essay that you might have to answer or exam that you might have to write an essay on for this poem. So yeah, hopefully it was useful for you and you quite enjoy this poem. And yeah, thank you for listening, and I'm sure I'll see you guys soon.